afternoon and welcome once again to the Kettleson Cooking Show. Today we're going to make some split pea soup. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday, and of course this is wonderful to make during the week or after you've had a nice holiday meal, because most of the time if you are cooking a ham, you're going to have the ham bone, and that's one of the keys to the split pea soup. So let's get started. First we're going to have to cut our vegetables, then we're going to actually put everything together in the pot at one time. Cook it nice and easy. Easy peasy. So first things last, let's talk about split peas. So they come in a bag. Now some peas do need to be pre-soaked. Split peas do not. But what we always want to do when we have peas is we want to take them through a process excuse me, of soaking them. I'm sorry, of rinsing them. And what you need to rinse them is just a simple colander, or this is actually a mesh screen. And all I'm going to do is put the peas in the mesh screen and then run them underwater. The other thing that I want to do while I do this, though, is I do want to kind of look for any rocks that might be in it. Because, of course, sometimes a rock or two will get in there. We do not want that to get in the food at all. So what I do is I just run them underwater, just rinsing them. And once again, we do not need to get any, you don't need to soak these at all, but you're just looking for rocks. Actually, these look pretty good. There's one. And you just take it and throw it out. Alright, we got the split peas rinsed. We're going to leave that right there. And then we are going to start to cook. We are going to have to start to cut. So let's start to get those vegetables nice and cut. Okay, so the first thing we're going to cut are the onions. Now, split pea soup requires you to do Mirepoix. Mirepoix is simply a French term, and that French term means onions, celery, and carrots. That's all that means. So no need to worry about that. So when we cut an onion, we always cut it right in half. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to peel off this outside layer of skin so that you have a nice onion to cut. And what I do is I chop off both, I'm going to call it the not butt end, the top of the onion. Alright? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start with my knife flat. I have a good grip of my knife. My cutting board has a pan underneath. And I'm going to go bam, cut horizontally. And then I go there. And then I go here. And then I discard. And that's how you cut an onion. So we're going to do 3 of them just to give everybody a good look. So once again, I put my knife flat, cut 3 times, and that's good. Now, you can get really fancy with onions, and some people do. So first and foremost, I take the onion. I'm going to cut it right down the middle. Okay, I don't want to get any dirt off my cutting board. Peel that outside layer off, chop off the tops, peel any other remainder of the onion. Then I'm going to cut. Now, of course, I'm going to cut this way. The funny thing about when we learn to cut vegetables the right way, it not only makes our food look better, but it also, you can really go quick if you learn how to cut a vegetable the right way. So first and foremost, we're going to come right down the middle. Right, we want to cut the onion in half. I cut the tops off. And then we want to just remove this outside layer. This onion was a little bit older than the other ones. Still good. Just want to peel back any onion that might not be there. And then once again I'm going to cut. See, this one's a little smaller one, so I'm just going to cut one time vertically. Couple horizontal cuts and then we chop them, and we got a nice chopped onion here. You got that, Bucket? You got a nice chopped onion. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this with our bench scraper. We're going to start to build a little Mirepoix. And you know, people say, well, what about a little bit of onion skin that might get left over? And I always tell them that's totally and completely fine. No one's going to notice that. That's not going to hurt you. If it was a bigger slice, then you may be concerned because, quite frankly, your guests might taste it. But, I mean, just a little piece, it's no big deal. Okay, the next vegetable we're going to cut is we're going to cut some celery. Now the first thing we want to do with celery is we want to wash it, right? Because celery grows in dirt. And we don't want any dirt in our soup. Alright, now with celery, I have 3 that don't really have a ton of the tops, which is sprig. But I cut the tops off like this. Okay? And I just discard that. A lot of times if you're going to cook soup or stock, you can keep that and continue to use that. And then what we're going to do with celery is you can do it a couple of different ways. The first way is just straight across. And that'll be perfectly fine for this soup because, of course, this is going to cook for a while. But the other way you could do it is you could just hold the back end. Notice how I didn't cut all the way through the heel of the celery. I left the heel of the celery on. And I'm just going to give it about 3 dices, or 3 long cuts along those ribs. Now look at the difference that I'm going to have here. So this is like great for when you're doing like a salad of some description, because you can get the celery a lot smaller. So I'm going to do that again here. I'm not going to go all the way back to the heel. I'm just going to cut and I'm going to come right up the rib. And then I'm going to bring them together. My knuckle is my guide of how big I want it. If I want it small, I can keep my knuckle smart. If I want it big, I can let my knuckle go. Notice my thumb is back. And I have a grip on the knife where I'm actually grabbing the knife. I don't have the handle, I have the knife itself, and that's how you want to do it. And that's perfect. That's the celery. So Mirepoix, of course, is a French word. Thank God for the French for cooking, because they are wonderful cooks. Of course, we owe a lot of stuff, especially I mean, this is totally a French kind of dish here, just because of the ingredients that we're using here. Now, with the carrots, what we want to do here is first we always want to wash them, because once again, carrots also grow in dirt, which contains all kinds of contaminant. And then we're just going to peel them real quick. This does not have to be a super awesome job of peeling, because it's going to go in the soup, right? And you could do a lot of different things with these carrots, because you're actually going to see some of these carrots in the final product. I'm going to do them the two traditional ways. The first way is just a half crescent, and then the second way is actually going to be to make them so that they are square. So if we're going to do half crescents, then it's pretty straightforward. All I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down the carrot with my knife, and sometimes at the end here you got to be a little bit gentle, and then all we're going to do is go here. And once again, we're going to try to get about the same distances with the celery. All right, that looks good. Now, if I was going to do it if I wanted to get a square, what I have to do is, of course, take that one side of that carrot off so I have it nice and stable here. Okay? And then I'm going to come down the side again because I'm trying to square off this carrot here. I want to get it as square as possible. Beautiful. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to get a nice level square side. I'm going to come down with my knife and get that nice and squared off. Now I'm going to turn it over. Notice I didn't cut through the heel of the carrot again. Now I'm going to come here like this, keeping them together. I'm going to use my knuckle again. Now you can see these actually come out really nice, and they're nice and they look wonderfully. If you were going to go to like a gourmet restaurant and have like a split pea soup, they would do all of the carrots like this. Which, you know, a lot of us don't have the time to do that, quite frankly. So, you know, we do what we can at home. I didn't really get that nice and squared off so I have a good cutting surface. And then this one I'm just going to do it my normal circles, half crescents again, just because it's easy. Now you can also do these carrots on a mandolin. Maybe one episode we'll do mandolin. And that is actually a lot faster, a little dangerous. I mean, once you get used to using your knife, you can really prep vegetables. This is called prepping vegetables in a hurry. I like how that looks though. So we got those three things done and ready to roll. While I'm here, I'm going to cut my garlic too, because we're going to use a little garlic in this, and so I'm going to cut the garlic as well. So I have 2 cloves of garlic here. Actually, let's do the potatoes first, because I'm gonna put potatoes in. Sometimes split pea soup doesn't have potatoes. I like potatoes. Remember, there's 2 different kinds of potatoes. You really have to think of 2 big categories. There's ones that are starchy and ones that are non-starchy. The differences are, if you see a red potato, those are going to have a lot more starch in them. What you can do with these is actually, you can cook them and they're going to keep their shape. If you go with the other type of potato, which is like a russet potato or something that you use for baking, those potatoes, of course, are going to be, they're going to fall apart, but they're also like wonderful for mashed potatoes. Whereas these red potatoes are really nice for like soups where you need them actually to stay together. I'm peeling this one with my chef's knife. Once again, the chef knife is the most valuable tool in the kitchen. You know, I was talking to some friends about that the other day. If there was one tool, what would I have? And it would definitely be a chef knife. Because I can do some really sick stuff with I can do basically everything with my chef knife. As you see, I'm just peeling this potato here. And when I'm going to cut this potato, I'm going to use the same philosophy. I want to cut down 3 times, twice, and then I'm going to flip it over, I'm going to cut it twice. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make them about the same size. And the reason why I want them about the same size is, remember, because these are red potatoes, They are going to keep their shape, and when they keep their shape, I want that shape in the soup to give that soup a nice look. Now, you know, people say, well, then why do you peel potatoes and why not just use a knife to always peel potatoes? And the truth to the matter is if you have a paring knife, you can get pretty close. But if you use your chef knife, it does really take off a little bit more than some people would like. I mean, you are being just a little bit, you know, let's say, not wasteful, but it's just, it's going to take a little bit more than you like. It takes a little bit more off of the potato. Now, in my opinion, I like the speed aspect of it. I can go fast with these, right? I don't have to take out another knife. I can just do it. It's worth the little bit extra waste. So I use 3 potatoes. I kind of use 3, especially the onions are small. If the onions are small, I'm going to go 3, 3, 3. I'm going to use 3 celeries, 3 carrots, and 3 onions. If you're using a larger onion, you might want to peel back on the onion a little bit and just do 2 onions. But then I put in 3 red potatoes. And once again, I'm going to get a nice even side. I'm going to come down twice, flip it over. Come down twice. It's moving a little bit on me. See, that time that side wasn't as flat as it should have been. And then I'm going to come across. And that gives you these nice little squares. These, of course, red potatoes are what you use in something like a potato salad, and that's how you cut them. So now that I have those potatoes done, I am going to do the garlic as well. We got our Mirepoix chopped, and now we got our potatoes chopped, and all we're going to do is do this garlic. Now for this garlic, it's going to be really easy. All I did was peel it by taking my knife and crushing the back and any excess skin off. There's one last little piece here. And then I'm going to take my garlic and I'm going to just take my knife, once again using my knuckles as my guide, and I'm just going to bam, 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 bam. That's all I want. If I wanted to crush the garlic, I could, but I don't want to do that now. All I want is nice slices of garlic. I don't want to chop it or crush it. I just want slices. Number one, I think the extra, well, I don't know if that's scientifically true, but I like the extra surface area there to add some extra flavors. Okay, I have my Mirepoix. Now I'm going to have to start thinking about my pot here. So I have my pot here, and I want to put it on medium. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my butter here. So I'm using 1/4 of a cup of butter. Now that's a lot of butter, but you're going to need it because you have all that Mirepoix to cut down. Now, I mean, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, with the simple split pea soup, this is really the basics of French cooking. We have our butter in our pan. We have our Mirepoix. Now, when you guys do your Mirepoix, you want to make sure that you cook it before you put in your garlic. Sometimes the garlic has a tendency to get overdone if you don't do that. Like if you let these vegetables, you just put the garlic right in with the rest of these vegetables. So the process really is going to be, first we're going to put the Mirepoix in, then we're going to let that really cook for about 3 to 5 minutes once our butter's melted here. And then what we're going to do is put in our garlic, get that another minute or so, and then we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. So my butter is melted here. I'm going to add my Mirepoix. Once again, this is just going to light up your kitchen with smells. People are going to be like, wow, this he can really cook. He can really cook. That smells wonderful in there. Now, I also do something else a little bit differently. I don't know if there's any kind of science behind this or anything. I just was taught to do this. So I add a little bit of salt, not a ton, just a splash of salt to these vegetables to let them kind of sweat a little bit. I want them to kind of release their juices. And once again, we're just going to let this cook here. I am so excited for this soup. Honestly, I really have been kind of dying for it. While that's cooking, we have our rest of our vegetables right here. I want to talk a little bit about the ham bone. So, if you're going to make this soup, do not discard your ham bone. Look at Buckus. Buckus is ready to go, man. He's right next to me. He's looking at this ham bone with all intensity. All right, so don't discard this bone. It's a wonder. It has so much flavor in it, and we are going to use this in our soup. All I do is I wrap it up in plastic wrap, and then I just leave it in the fridge until I'm going to make this soup. Now, good things about it is that this is actually just a little piece of butter. Most of the time, I make this soup a day or two after Christmas, or a day or two after New Year's if we have a ham on New Year's, or New Year's Day to be precise, or you know, a couple of days after Easter. I think this is a wonderful time to make this soup. The other great thing about this soup is once you make it, it really does a nice job of holding itself. You can put it in the fridge, you can even freeze it. It'll last throughout the week, so it's kind of nice to have if you're going to do a, you know, if you're going to do a day or two after. I'll do a split pea soup, and then you know, I'll hold it for a couple more days, and then I'll have it again for dinner. A couple of other things that we're going to talk about here in just a second is we have our natural salt and pepper, but we're also going to add a bay leaf in there. Now, for those of you who don't know, all a bay leaf is really just a dried bay leaf, and they look like this, but these add a ton of flavor. Now, you always want to pick the bay leaf out before you serve it, because quite frankly, this isn't the best to eat. And then the other thing we're going to use is thyme. Now, I use ground thyme. You can use fresh thyme. You can use real thyme springs. You can do a whole bunch of different things with this, but I use the ground thyme. It's what I have in my spice cabinet. People always ask me what spices should I buy. I don't really look to have you know, a huge number of spices on hand. Quite frankly, you know, I cook a lot, and I still buy these little containers of these spices. Quite frankly, just because when I do buy the bigger containers, they sit on my shelves forever. So I kind of like them as fresh as possible. And then, of course, something like a bay leaf, they come in this container. This is the smallest container that you can buy. So you just buy a thing. Mariano's has their own brand too, which I really like. I'm using McCormick here. Just so happened I bought McCormick that time. Both Mariano's brand and McCormick are really good. I'm also going to use some chicken broth. I love the Mariano's chicken broth, you know, the 99% free. Now with this one, I do have some leftovers, so I'm going to use about 6 cups of chicken broth, and then I'm going to fill it up with a little bit extra water. And then, of course, I have my leftovers from Christmas, and from our Christmas ham. I have my leftovers. And those are pretty easy to kind of cook. I left a couple out here, so I left a couple of the slices. And all I'm going to do when I cut those, this is not Einstein stuff right here. Okay? All I want to do is make a couple of lines. And then remember the size of about those tomatoes? I'm sorry, the potatoes? So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I would like it to kind of be uniform with that. And that's it. I mean, really, I'm just going to cut a couple lines in there, and now I kind of take it and I say, well, those are pretty close. I'd kind of like it to be roughly the same size. Now, once again, if you were having this at a gourmet restaurant, they would definitely make sure that all that food was sized correctly when they prepped it, so that everything would come out wonderfully. I have my peas sitting down here. I'm just going to clean my workstation a little bit. But now we can really start to smell these vegetables. Do you see how they just softened a little bit? I hope you can see that on the camera. They softened just a little bit. Oh, there's a nice big carrot in there. It's going to be so nice. Now I can smell them. They're really fragrant. I'm going to just take my garlic, and I'm going to put my garlic in there. We're going to cook this for about a minute. Bucky, you smell something? Yeah, I smell something. Yeah, it smells good. Ah, you want some of that ham, huh? I bet you do. We got a minute here. I was going to talk to everybody about unemployment fraud, seeing as we had some unemployment fraud. Seems like a lot of people are getting impacted by this. I know that usually you're told by your work, through your work, or you can find it on your credit report that somebody has tried to file an unemployment claim against you. If that happens to you, don't be so nervous. Somebody obviously has your information one way or the other, including your social security number. But all you really should do in that manner is to go to your credit report, make sure you have with all three, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. You put a freeze or a lock on your credit score. It doesn't really matter which one you put on. Really just I prefer the lock just because it really does lock it down, and if somebody does apply for credit, they're going to get declined. What's embarrassing about the lock, of course, is if you do have that on there, you will also be declined, so that could be an embarrassing situation. But then what you need to do is go to your state website, check out your state's website, and you're going to have to put in some basic information about somebody has filed a fraudulent claim trying to claim unemployment behind you. That's really all you do. Okay, so now I have my garlic has been in there. You saw it was about in there for about a minute. Okay, now I'm going to put my potatoes in there and my bay leaf. I love cooking with soups because, you know, this isn't chemistry, right? I mean, there's a lot of chemistry in it, don't kid yourself. But you don't have to be so precise with soups. You don't have to be as precise as, say, when you're cooking different other things. So I just like to put that one bay leaf in, and then I give it a good sprinkle of thyme. And now I'm going to put a nice bit of pepper in there. I don't know, is it 2 teaspoons? Is it 3 teaspoons? I don't know how much pepper you like, but I definitely want that taste in there. And then I'm going to put salt in right now. Man, this thing is just smelling wonderfully. Okay, so now I got that all ready to go. I got my bone in there. Now I'm ready to add my stock. So, quick tip with these stocks. They usually come with these containers. I love these containers, by the way. You don't have to really worry about the can not opening up. This one's bent a little bit. So when you pour this in, what you want to do is you want to open it, especially if you're going to use the whole thing, and take your knife and stab the back of it. That'll give you a nice little pouring. Instead of it going out and glung, 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 it'll go glung, glung, glung. For all those who, college days, when you used to, chug beers. I'm going to say college days, and that may or may not still be happening in my life. But you can always put a little cut in there. Now this one I already put the cut in. I used most of it. And once again, we don't need, absolute perfection. We want about 6 cups of broth here. So I'm going to use all, so there was a little bit in that one. I'm going to use both of these, and I'm going to call it a day. Now, when I get to this point here, I usually like to get it a little bit higher, so I'm just going to add some water. I don't know, 2 cups, cup and a half. Just add a little bit of water. And then, of course, I'm going to add my stars and my shows, which is our split peas. Whoop. That came out in a big chunk. And Buckus is going to get one. Alright, now I have my soup ready to roll. I'm actually going to clean this up a little bit. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to bring this to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, then I'm going to put it at a simmer. So I'll bring you back once it's boiling. I'll let you kind of look at that. And then we will cover it and bring it, and it'll be ready in about an hour. So stay tuned. I'll be back in a second. Make sure that we got this thing all taken care of. Okay, now you can see that it's boiling, right? That was about 6 minutes and it started to boil. I still have it on 5 or medium. Now what I want to do is take it down to 2, leave it uncovered, and I'm just going to let it simmer. We're going to let it simmer for up to 60 minutes, okay? What we're looking for here is not necessarily a temperature, but what we want to find is a consistency. Right now, you see how everything is really thin. In 60 minutes, when we come back, you're going to see that this is going to thicken up. Now, I do have to say, I'm not just going to walk away from this or go take the dog for a walk for 60 minutes. I am going to be here to monitor it somewhat. I'm just going to, every 15 minutes or so, come by and just give it a stir and kind of see where it's at. Some people really like thick split pea soup. And for those people, you're going to let it cook for 90 minutes. But for me, 60 minutes is about right. All right, let's let this simmer. You see those little bubbles that are there now? That's perfect. Let's let this simmer like this for about 60 minutes. We'll be right back. All right, so it's been about a half hour. So notice we got a nice, it's on 2 right now on my range. But you know, we're just above low really is what you want. And you see this nice simmer going on. Now you'll notice a couple of things. First and foremost, you'll notice the split peas will start to deteriorate. You want that. Notice how those potatoes are keeping their nice their shape really well. And then you're going to notice the bone. You see the meat is starting to pull away from the bone here. The bone is actually starting to be more and more exposed. That's exactly what you want. So from this point out, the way I like it, it's about 30 more minutes. I know some people like that really thick sweet split pea soup. So that would be another 60 minutes from here. But what we'll do is we'll come back in 30 and we will get the bone out. We'll add our diced ham, let it finish off, and then we will be all set to serve this wonderful split pea soup. Okay, so now it's been an hour. Now, like I said, if you want a real thick soup, you can let this keep on cooking. But I like it just like this. It looks really, really good. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this bone out of here. Now, there's a number of ways you can do this. This is how I do it. I get my tongs out, and then I grab a plate. I like to, when I take this out, to use this ham. Oh my gosh, I mean, it's just, do you see how that has kind of just all a lot of the ham has actually fallen off, but you got a couple of points. Notice Butkus just got up and running. But you see how it's really peeled back. That's an excellent sign, and this can just get torn off like butter. Okay, so I'm going to put this down on the other side. And then at this point, I have my leftover ham from Thanksgiving that I've chopped up in quarters. And we're just going to add that to the soup. Normally, you let this sit for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. And we're going to stir this in. Guys, I mean, I can't tell you how this smells. I mean, it smells wonderful. Now I'm going to taste it, knowing that by letting that ham cook in there for about another 10 minutes, it's going to add a little bit of salt to the dish. But I'm still going to taste it, and I'm probably going to salt it, because normally I like it a little salty. My God. I'm actually not even going to touch. Well, I'll touch it just a little bit, just because. Just because. But I mean, just a tad. I mean, literally, I'm putting in less than a teaspoon. And I'm just gonna give it a good stir. Now, to plate this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a bowl and I'm going to give me a nice scoop. Now, this is how I enjoy your split pea soup. I like it. As you can see, it's not that it's so thick that it's crazy. I like a little bit of the broth. And then what I like to do here is when I have this soup, I go ahead and I add just a little bit of sour cream. And this is strictly for garnish. You do not have to do this at all, but I just do this just so that I can have a nice garnish on it. And it's just a little dab of sour cream. Right on top there. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I can't tell you how good this smells right here. But I'm sure that your family is going to love this. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and follow us on Instagram. And enjoy your split pea soup.